Hello, we are live. We have got quite a few people on here already. I know some people will be rushing in. We had a lot of signups to this webinar, so really excited to see you here already chatting in the chat. This is live. If you engage with me or Robbie right now, we'll engage right back. So please do keep the questions coming. I'll answer them if they make sense during the webinar, or at the end we've got a dedicated Q&A session if that's a better place to address them. My name's Josh, and I'm going to do a whole intro about myself, but I've also got Robbie, who is another member of Empirical Training, who's going to be moderating the chat and answering the questions I don't get to live. So
I'm the Jamie to your Joe Rogan this evening.
Yeah, he's going to fact check me. He's also been on, you might have seen him on Instagram Live not too long ago, because I know he pulled a few extra people into here from that. So if you're sick of Robbie, don't worry, he's going to go off camera in a few minutes, and it's just going to be me.
Boot him off.
Yeah. So if people are just joining us now, like I say, we're going to wait a couple more minutes, just let everyone get in. So get acquainted to each other in the chat. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm in the UK, so I've got sun blasting on my face right now as the sun goes down.
Yes, get your questions in. Whatever burning questions you've got, either now or during, whatever's on your mind, just get them in the comments section, and then we'll address them at the end, or Josh will address them at the end, and then I might chip in halfway and answer them in the chat as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we've got 1 more minute left until we'll get going. So let me just set up my my screen. It'd be great to know to start. Yeah, it'd be great to know to start if what are people currently doing? Are you considering a cybersecurity job? Do you currently work in cybersecurity? Because we get people from both sides. Are you completely starting out? You have no idea, and you just thought, "Hey, this looks interesting," or you already started that journey? Give me a little sentence in the chat. Just be great to understand where you're coming from, so I can tailor the content to that, and we understand how the spread. While I'm setting up my screen, we will, if people want the slides, if you join our school and message me, I can actually send them to you. So that's school.com with a K/cybersec, and it's not /cybersec, is it, Robbie? It's SecOps. Empirical Training on School. You'll go and find it. It's a running joke that I always butcher that.
In the free community, it's schoolwithak.com/cybersec, and then our other community is /SOC.
Great, thank you. And that's why he's here, guys. That's my Jamie right there, popping in. Let me share screen and we'll get going. Excellent. Nice. So I got some people telling me what their kind of backgrounds are. If you just joined, please, I'd love to hear, what is your interest in cybersecurity? Are you thinking about a career in it? Are you in a blue team job thinking about red team? Are you just curious, as Josh Bates is, who just loves learning anything about computers? So hopefully there'll be something in there for you as also. Some of the people who don't work in it, but they're kind of getting in, changing careers after 19 years in oil and gas. You're not the only person to make the career change. A lot of people doing it. Just complete a master's. Oh, interesting. You need some hands-on experience. Hopefully, we'll give you some tips on that. Also, cyber curious got me cracking up. And Rob, would you mind sharing the link just to the free school community? Or do you know? Yes, you legend. He's ahead of it. Okay. So join that if you're not part of there already, because you can ping me after this, and I can share some slides if that's what you're after. Find that easier than emailing them, because the email spam filters tend to block it because it could be a malicious attachment. We don't want to be doing anything that could be seen as malicious in this reason. Okay. Excellent. So training in red team and looking to upskill to blue team. Interesting, Femi. Normally it's the other direction that people tend to go in, but that's really interesting. Thanks for that. I'm going to jump in now. Keep them coming in. I will glance over, get an understanding of who you are and where you're at. My name is Josh Davis. I am a security strategist. I work for a very large cybersecurity company who have solutions that touch the full breadth and depth, including penetration testing services and really popular tools. I'm not doing it in that capacity though. This is an empirical training webinar. It's something that I do alongside some of my former colleagues and now friends to help people get into cybersecurity. because I had an unorthodox journey. I actually studied law at university before AJ Andrew, who you might have seen on our socials, convinced me that I could make the switch over when I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I thought I would. So hopefully we'll we were trying to pass that down, that knowledge, and show people all the things we wish we knew when we started off a career in cybersecurity, and how we progressed through the different stages as well. So trying to share that knowledge. The agenda today. So I'm going to go through the red versus blue roles. What's the difference? Some people I know will be kind of level 0, level 1 here. So just do some expectations setting. We're going to look at the different functions within NIST and really how they relate to each other as well. Where does the red team cross over to the blue team before we again go into what's right for you? What could be your path here, and what it would take to actually become a successful red teamer or a successful blue teamer. Just before we jump into that, I want to introduce you to who we are. Who is Empirical Training? Really, Empirical Training are these 4 gentlemen. I'm one of them. Robbie's another, who you just saw if you hit at the top of the call. We've got over 30, I don't know how much it is, but at least over 30 years in cybersecurity industry so far. Vaughan and Robbie, both SOC leaders, and I'm now stepped away from maybe the hands-on keyboard threat and security analyst stuff. I used to be an incident responder. I used to do some threat hunting pieces, and I was going to double down into forensics before moving on to the darker side of sales, marketing, and now product, but it suits me down to the ground because I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, and it helps me give a rounded opinion when it comes to these talks. And finally, Andrew, the incident response specialist, and really, if you've seen this on Instagram, Robbie and Andrew, probably the faces that you've seen before. If you follow us to our podcast, you would have seen me, week in, week out. So, if you don't know us, that's who we are, and we're all about getting people, creating a great space for people to share insights in cybersecurity, and then helping those who need that little extra help to kind of get progress down their journey and hopefully get that first role, because it's a really worthwhile career. I haven't looked back since making the switch from law. So red versus blue. Let's start here. And this image, actually, my face is kind of like that as well, right? I've got the 2 sides of my face from the sun that we've got on. But really, red versus blue, I wanted to represent this with one helmet because they can be 2 sides of the same coin. And that's really spoiler to what the theme is going to be here today. But they are distinct sides. They need each other. And the red is really the offensive security. So those who don't know what I'm talking about, red team, offensive security. The roles you've got in there are penetration testers, social engineers, then people who are more specialist into networking specialists, or application specialists. There are other specialisms as well. Really, you have to be a kind of a master, master of one of those areas to be a really successful offensive security tester, because you need to be able to find vulnerabilities, exploits that work in these solutions. And there's also physical security tester. That's a really interesting one. In another life, I could have been one of those. I applied for a job with PwC to do that. That's basically like Ocean's 11. You go and break into buildings and see how far you can get in, posing as the janitor or the cleaner, so that you can actually then drop a USB into a machine, because all your firewalls and all of your VPNs and zero trust networks set up is redundant if somebody can just stroll into the data center and plug themselves in, or put like a Raspberry Pi in there and start dropping stuff out of there. The other big area we see is bug bounty hunters. So many people ask us about bug bounties. I think it's a really attractive space to be in. And we'll talk a little bit later about kind of the challenges of being a bug bounty hunter. And then you've got security researcher, which I think shows, that we need to understand what attackers are doing. And that's going to help us be better in offensive security using the attacks ourselves. But it's also, if you know, on the defensive side, security researcher falls in there as well, because they very much are researching the attacks in order to know how to use them, but also know how to detect and prevent them also. So that brings us to the blue side. Security analyst, incident responder, threat hunter, forensic analyst, security engineer, governance risk and compliance. These are going to specialize in they work on all the same kind of team together. Sometimes responsibilities are blurred between these, but it does summarize quite nicely. Like if you're an incident responder, you're really focused on when it hits the fan, getting everyone together to actually contain an incident and react to it before they reach their objectives. Threat hunter, I really enjoyed doing this. You kind of digging through the data to try and find the needles in haystacks, to try and find the threats that evade traditional detections, or 0 days. Even more interesting, if you manage to find a 0 day, that is a huge moment. Very rare to happen, even though there are so many of them these days. And governance, risk, and compliance. So that's another part of the blue team, about making sure that we are adhering to our compliance responsibilities, and all the things we're supposed to be doing are documented and established and known, so that we can prove to people, yes, we have this level of security, so that we are allowed to be a hospital and deal with sensitive medical records. We're allowed to take payment card information because we are a merchant, a retailer, and so on. Great. So those are two sides of the coin, two positions. And I get into more of the relationships of how they work. And to do that, I want to use the NIST cybersecurity framework. 2.0 is the latest version. It's an all-round security framework, so anyone can be part of this and use this. And really, lots of businesses use it to understand and build their security strategy. Categorizing it by the buckets, and I'm going to break it down in the next slide, is really helpful to understand the different functions of cybersecurity and why they all kind of need to be together in order to effectively work, right? We can't be siloed in this respect. I'm also going to show you where penetration tests, where the red team fit in the NIST framework also. But last thing to say, this, just like all compliance standards, shows, hey, I have at least this level of security, so you can trust me to be a partner with you, or you can trust me to be a customer. It is self-assessed typically, or you can actually get a third party like a consultant to come in and assess it if you need that extra level. But yeah, this is not quite one they're going to get fines for not being compliant for in the same way. It's more to prove to people, hey, I have a good security posture here. And as such, it applies to every security organization. So if you're going to learn one compliance standard, I recommend NIST. It's a great framework. And this is what it looks like when we build out those different stages. So I'll jump back a second. If you look at that kind of the wheel we had there, recover, identify, protect, detect, respond, and then govern encompasses it all. If I stretch that circle out, we can see in the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover sections, I've listed not an exhaustive list, but some good pieces that are going to be, the blue teams and red teams are going to have involvement in. So let's blue teams and red teams aside for a second. I'm going to talk just about the security strategy here. So in Identify, we need to know what it is that we have in order to protect it. So there are tools like assets discovery and inventory. You can actually do some manual reconnaissance as well. If anyone's ever done an Nmap scan, reconnaissance scan, that's basically what that asset discovery piece is. Vulnerability assessment, you need to understand where your risk is in your environment. Vulnerability assessment and all the subcomponents that I won't go into detail within there are a great way at starting that. And that then allows you to kind of threat model. So, okay, identify what's the biggest risk to my organization. Maybe if I'm Coca-Cola, it's somebody stealing that secret recipe, in which case I'm going to work out where that secret recipe is and how an attacker would get to it, work backwards from the thing that'd be, oh crap, that's awful, to how they could get there. That's what threat modeling is. And so that you understand what you've got, what the risk profile of the assets is called your vulnerability assessment, and then using your own context of, these are my business critical web servers. If they go down, I lose X amount of money. Here's where all my secrets are stored. Here's the HR always get picked on in these talks department. If they go down, that'll be fine for a couple of days. Let's have a lesser risk profile there. And so my threat modeling won't be, I won't take it I will take it seriously, but I won't apply the same level of protections or controls in the next stages as I would for my crown jewels. Yes, it is recorded, Femi, and it will be shared afterwards. So yeah, you can access these in our Skool community, hence why that link is so important. Back to NIST, protect, right? We want to protect our assets. If an attack can be blocked and stopped, it should be. As we all know, you can't block every attack. Otherwise, Robbie and I wouldn't have had jobs, right? Things would just work and the world would be a completely safe place. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You definitely should, and you should use as many as you can as the different the different points of your attack surface in order to deliver on good security. So you're patching and hardening, making sure you configured to like things like CIS standards, benchmarks, applying your patches, great starting point. Endpoint protections at EDR is really the champion here. Antivirus is the old dog with some fights still left in it, but mostly not gone. Firewalls, including web application firewalls, email security, data loss prevention, encryption, access control, basically things that stop people getting in. Doors aren't left wide open. If the attack is obvious enough that I can tell it's an attack with automation, block it, stop it from occurring. That's where protect fits. Detect, we need to make sure we're pulling feeds from all those protection controls as well as every asset that we have. So log ingest and network inspection is a big part of it. Tools like SIEM, so Security Incident Event Management, or XDR, is really where you're going to collect this data and then apply active analytics on it. I had to call out the UEBA, User Entity Behavior Analysis, and UBAD, User Behavior Anomaly Detection, because that's really where the detection space still is right now. Correlations are great. See this, do this, create an alert. But anomalies is really what's carrying in the age of low and slow attacks, identity-based attacks, and fileless malware. And then you need somebody to actually triage these alerts, right? This isn't an automated process. More people are directly involved here all the time. Respond, you need to investigate those. You need to communicate what's going on to any key stakeholders. And you need to build playbooks so you know what to do in each scenario that there might be a certain type of attack. If they compromise my firewall, what do I do? If they compromise one of my employees' machines, what do I do? Well, I guess I'd isolate that machine, stop it going any further, and then I'd contact this person because they're responsible for it, and so on and so on. Building these playbooks is really important. Planning before actually just working out on the fly. I've called out SOAR, which is Security Orchestration Automated Response, which is a great kind of connector for all of the protect and detect pieces. So when we see an alert, we can use it to trigger a response to contain an attack or disrupt it. But ultimately, to mitigate and to then to recover, we need to be able to remediate that. To be more manual stuff we're going to have to do. So people involved in this loop actually, you're turning the clock back, so to speak. What did it look like before we were compromised? Let's get it back there, get that attacker out, and remove any of the persistence mechanisms and so on. Now, that gives you a good summary of the kind of step-by-step here thing, feast for NIST. And I promise I'm going to tell you where blue and red teams fit in here. So governance, the bottom, governance, risk, and compliance are here, but also penetration testers. They fall under govern. They aren't necessarily installing, maintaining, using any of the things up here. Really what they're doing is testing them. So the blue team are responsible for deploying these tools, making sure that they work, piping all the data together so that it works, performing vulnerability assessments, getting plans for patching or doing the patch themselves, tweaking and configuring the protection sources so that they are optimized for the scenarios, removing out false positives and such. Detect, making sure analytics are good and are constantly tweaked so we're on the cutting edge of the threat landscape, and also triaging these alerts, working them, responding to them, because there is always going to be the necessary evil of false positives here, which are fine when it comes to detection, less fine in protect. But anyway, I digress. Respond as well. They're going to carry out the response work and then bring in that communicate part, different stakeholders who might be in the IT team, might be in the cloud team to actually carry out the final actions. And then they're going to make sure we can recover and ultimately apply lessons learned so we get better. This is a circle. That's why it was a circle in the last one, because these things are constantly going around and you're applying lessons learned and getting better. That can be done on the fly with a red team by the blue team, by just learning as they go along and having the attackers be the people that test them, right? So after we've responded to an incident, maybe it was, oh no, world's going to fall apart for a day or two, but we fixed it. Next time, how can we catch that earlier? Or how can we improve our response process so that we are more streamlined to mitigate that damage earlier? The other option then is you get a pen tester in who simulates an adversary, who simulates the attacker to actually go and test out each of these controls. Asset discovery. If the penetration tester can find an asset you didn't know existed, you didn't have documented, that's a blind spot and a great asset for them to use to kind of compromise and launch further attacks from. Protect. They're going to bypass some of these protection pieces, and sometimes they might be like, yeah, that's just how it is. This technique always works against EDR, or they might be like, hang on, your EDR really sucks here. Maybe you should get a new one, or maybe you should tweak it and tune it. Maybe more firewall rules is a better example. Hey, you left the firewall completely open over here. Do you really need that? Because we just walked right in. Detect, they're going to, if you catch them with your analytics, great. If you don't, they can tell you exactly what they did and how they did it so that you can improve that analytic going forward. Next, respond as well. Did you just contain and disrupt them in time before they moved on to the next thing and ultimately, got to their end objectives or not? So really, this is a test, and this is a real, they are working together here. The blue team is, I'm going to say, the superstars. They're the most important, right? In fact, my next slide summarizes this a bit better. Blue team, stop threat actors, which is the bottom line of cybersecurity, right? We need to stop the attackers from being successful. We need to keep our businesses running. We need to keep our data secure, keep our customers secure, and so on. Ultimately, that's just stop threat actors. The red team, though, they simulate the threat actors. They are responsible for testing and validating, so proving that it works to improve the security operations so the blue team can stop threats. Whereas the blue team are deploying, configuring, maintaining, and monitoring the security controls in order to prevent, detect, and respond to threats. So blue team stop threat actors, red team simulate the threat actors. And it's a part, the red team's entire function here is to make the blue team better. Whether that's a bug bounty hunter who tells, hey, Google, did you know that on your new webpage, I can do a server-side request forgery attack? And here's the evidence. Go and fix it. Great. The blue team takes that, thanks you, plugs that hole, and attacker doesn't get to it. Whether it's a SOC internally, you're just testing out a SOC and they've got 24/7, 365 monitoring. Did they respond to it in time? Did you catch them with their trousers down on the weekend or Christmas? And you feed that all back as part of the report in order to make the blue team better. So blue team, red team are the supporting acts. And what's interesting here, I think, is that red team is definitely the more glamorous. Even when I asked ChatGPT to make these helmets for me, the red one came out way cooler. And I tried a few more attempts with the blue one, but that was the first time the red one came out awesome. So I think that's kind of shows the attitude is, yeah, I want to be a hacker. I want to be hands-on keyboard improving all this. But ultimately, you are doing that to don't forget that the whole point of you, a red team, is to make the blue team kind of better. And I'm not saying that to belittle the red team. I'm just making that very clear that there's no point having a red team if you don't have a blue team. So I was just laughing at chat there. Sorry, I don't know. What's your favorite color was asked, red or blue? Maybe you've not quite understood the purpose of this webinar, but I think you have, and you're just messing about. If I want to talk more about simulation versus stopping, though, which I do, I want to look at how it's difficult to evade detection. And this is the pyramid of pain. You probably might have come across this before. If not, this is a great one to remember. It essentially shows, like, going from the bottom up, what is the easiest thing for attackers to change. And really, and the things that are hardest for them to change. So hash values are really easy to change. That's why antivirus doesn't work anymore, because file hashes change all the time. So working on a known bad file hash doesn't work. IP address, we've all done VPN, we've all done proxies, we've all found ways to tunnel through other additional IP addresses. You can come from any which way. That's easy and simple to change as well. Same for domain. It gets more annoying when it comes to like network or host artifacts, or things you actually kind of deploy onto the attributes that are actually related to your infrastructure that you're using, sending out, or the kind of the tools and techniques used. So what host are you running that kind of is doing the attacks or so on? Are there any indicators that I could find in user agent or cookie that tells me a little bit more about you? Where it gets really challenging and tough is the tool. So if you can write your own tool, that's going to be hard for me to detect. But it's going to be really hard for you to write a brand new tool. If you go and use Nessus, Nmap, one of the ones that open source that are free out there, even Kali Linux, you use Metasploit, anything off there. We've all got detections for those in the blue team. We know what those look like. So really, you have to write your own kind of tools in order to be successful there. And once we find it, document it, write detections for it, you've got to rewrite another one. So that's a real painful point to actually have to try and reimagine. And then tactics, techniques, and procedures. So the actual specific exploits that you're going to use, the strings, the attack strings that you might favor and to use. These, once we know about those as well, we can write detections for those also and start to kind of plan against threat actors. So if you're able to recycle these things more, then you're a more effective threat actor. And that's why we, as security analysts, as blue team as well, we're focusing on the tough, challenging, and annoying parts in order to write our detections on. Because if we write a detection based on a bad IP address, tomorrow it gets recycled and reassigned to somebody good, and I'm triggering alerts off Robbie just visiting my website to try and purchase something off me. So I see in the chat some of the people talking about the purple team already. I will answer that question, but just hold on for that one. But Pyramid of Pain shows how detections work and how threat actors, they have to put in order to change different indicators that we will trigger analytics on. Now, if we look at this the other side for the pen tester, the pen testers are these things are very similar, right? If you're able to make your own tech tools, your own TTPs, you're going to be really effective at getting in here. But let's look at, this is taken from a respected pen testing website who said this is the most time that they spend on different tasks. Discovery is where they spend most of their time, right? Just working out what is it that we're up against, that we're facing. You're running reconnaissance scans and so on. Fuzzing then, so sending strings at applications, at APIs, whatever it might be that you're trying to test, different strings to see what response it gives back. So you can actually then start to come up with reasons. I've done all that. Let's analyze the data. Now I can chase some hypotheses and test cases based on what was returned and what I've got caught in reconnaissance as to how I might be able to exploit this further. You might spend some time focusing on business, process, and logic flaws, and then you might spend some more time developing different attacker frameworks, so evolving your kind of TTPs. And then finally, you might spend some time building out tools. So it kind of just shows that most of this is actually doing quite the basic stuff, the discovery, fuzzing. But really, if you are to excel, you need to be effective at the tighter end of the pyramid as well, because that's where defensive teams are really going to be tested. If you're just doing a vulnerability scan, automated vulnerability scans exist, right? If you aren't amazing at pen testing and just doing the generic stuff, running scripts using known tools, you're going to be caught in a second. And any security team worth their salt would have already run these tools to see how they work already. So yeah, hopefully just kind of highlight that a lot of your time is spent doing the kind of basic stuff. But if you do it in the easy way, it's not so effective. So it really is a high barrier to entry for pen testers. They tend to be some of the more advanced and specialist people within cybersecurity, although the industry is growing. So there are some people who might be able to get entry level roles in red teaming also. The other bit that's not up on here, I think, is the most time spent is, let's say, all this white space on surrounding the pen testing tasks. That is the time you spend writing reports, right? Because all of this is great, but if you didn't document it and write up a report to give to the blue team so they can be better next time, you're useless, really. That's why you pay for red teams, to assess and validate your security posture so that you can improve it. And this can be done at a point in time, once a year maybe, or it can be done continuously. You hear that, continuous pen testers, they're kind of just glorified vulnerability scanners, but hands-on keyboard, proper pen tests, the more regularly you do it, the better security is going to be. Really, that is a luxury that only the most sophisticated organizations can afford. So what about purple? Somebody said their favorite color was purple, and I don't know if you maybe preempted me there, but or if you know about this cybersecurity concept before. But purple is kind of where red and blue meet. You know, I used to think that there was a purple team. AJ actually corrected me and said, no, there's no such thing as a purple team. There's purple functions. There's things where the red team and blue team kind of meet, and these things are bleeding more into each other. You might well, if you're, there's benefit to doing them both, to knowing both sides of the coin, and we're going to be, the good analysts can be more expected to be able to do a level of purple functions, or at least be able to work with the other team. So yeah, the point here is that if they're the red team or blue team, we both need to take more of an active interest in each other's functions, learn more about them, and you're never going to be pure blue or pure red. You're always going to have a little bit of purple within you. So that's where this slide comes up, the demand for purple functions and blue functions. I think I alluded to the fact that there are more. The pen testers is more the luxury of more sophisticated organizations, financial organizations. There are just less red teamers out there. There's less demand for the people and functions that they do. Although I will admit the red chunk has been getting bigger. But like I said before, if you don't have a blue team, there's no point having a red team. If you haven't done a vulnerability scan, why are you trying to do a pen test? Because they're just going to find all the obvious and easy stuff that a vulnerability scan can. You have to start with that low-hanging fruit, right? They say there's the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your time is spent doing the 80% of the work, the most effective stuff, whereas 80% of your time you spend doing that like little 20% that makes you a little bit better. That's kind of where, if I was to say run vulnerability scan versus pen testing, that 80-20 rule applies. And you might have heard that 80-20 rule used in different ways. It's commonly used in pen testing, but basically it's talking about the low-hanging fruit, the easy things to do are still where you spend 20% of your time gets 80% of the rewards, and then 80% of your time gets 20% of the rewards. So you just didn't mean to build these out one by one, but it looks like that's where we're at. The red side, the red offensives team are highly specialist. And someone's asking in the chat, but who am I? Great username, by the way. They're asking about certifications and degrees and qualifications. That is coming. And how to get experience without the certs is coming. Steady on. I'll get there. And also where to start. That is also coming. So this is a red team is advanced. It's highly specialist. You usually have 5 or plus year experience in security. All the red teamers I know started in the blue team and then moved off. They did their certs on the job. And then moved over, and they are sought after because that if you've been a blue teamer, then you'll be able to interface them a lot better. There are exceptions to this rule, of course. They will people will be able to get a job if you're brilliant straight away, or you might get a bit lucky. So I'm not saying don't try for red teams roles, but I am saying that blue teams are going to have a broader skill set, and you can still specialize from within a blue team into the red team. In fact, you'll be looked at more favorably. So let's look at blue team then. People who are trying to get into this, someone said, I got 0 experience. Focus on blue team. Find a role within there. We suggest security analyst because, again, that's the broadest. And they have entry level to veteran positions. So it's not like everyone who's good moves from the blue team to the red team. Some people stay blue team their entire lives and will be incredibly good at it. Most organizations have a blue team. There's more opportunity out there. There'll be more job postings for you to apply for. So that's the career I would suggest you look to. Get your job in a blue team. If you really like the offensive side, keep training it, keep practicing it. It will make you a better defender as well, because you're also learning how the attackers work by being an attacker yourself. So it's super valuable. And I'm not saying don't do one at the expense of the other. I'm just trying to make people see where they fit in together, and where, based on you are, you can get to where you want to be, and be open to these opportunities as well. I didn't know I'd be where I am when I started doing cybersecurity. So pathway and certs, and it's like you read my mind. It was the next slide. So on the offensive and red side, you're gonna, if you're starting from zero, you need that foundation. This applies to everybody. Both of them need foundations in networking and systems. You need to know how the internet works, right? How computers communicate with each other. What's a Linux machine? How does that work? What's the Linux command line look like? How does Windows work? How does PowerShell work? So you need to get those kind of IT basics. So if maybe getting a role in IT job, or taking some certs like the Network Plus or Linux Plus, Server Plus, those are some good areas that you can do there. There are other options as well. If you're focusing on the red team, you want to get cybersecurity experience first. So I touched on that point, but you could also alternatively get specialists experience in building applications, maybe application development. You become an application penetration tester. So there are other options here. This is my blanket advice. The cert, I recommend everyone start with Security Plus. If you're interested in the offensive side, then Certified Ethical Hacker, and sorry, the acronyms, I could not write all these out. That's a great one to start you off. There's also CTFs, Capture the Flags. Try Hack Me is a really good one for beginners. It kind of walks you through the basics, starts you off. Hack the Box is the one I prefer. Bit more advanced, less hand-holding, less guiding, but feels really good if you complete a box. And you're not allowed to tell anyone how you did it until the box is retired, which makes it quite a fun little gamified endeavor. Then you've got the GPEN. So this is one of the SANS certifications. SANS do great stuff there, but that is, it's very expensive as well. So recommend trying to get an employer pay that for you. OSCP, very intensive exam. Someone will watch you for, I think it's like 10 hours or so through your webcam as you would try to basically do a capture the flag and document what you've done. That is really intense. That is a hard exam to pass. So just letting you know. And then OSCE3, I don't actually know anyone who's done this, but this is like the high up level again. So that's where you can kind of get to. It's also helpful to get specialist certifications on knowledge in application systems or networks to kind of go to find your niche, because you're looking for the attacks that no one else can find. That's what separates a good penetration tester out from a vulnerability scanner. It's finding things that no one else thought to look for. The same thing comes to bug bounties, right? If you're trying to do bug bounties and that's your first thing you do in cybersecurity, there are going to be veteran people with automated scripts and tools that are scouring the internet, finding new directories on a web application perhaps, and then testing them out and then submitting that report when they get back to their computer. So it's a really difficult space to enter. Be a bounty hunter, you have to be really, really lucky or really, really good and really, really niche. The more niche you are, the better you'll do with bug bounties. On the blue side, we're talking about foundations again. Related job experience is optional. An IT job is great. It'll be looked on very favorably, but they really do. There's so many people that are part of a blue team that any experience can be valuable. Turns out my experience working in the legal sector actually was looked on favorably. They liked that when I talked about how I would apply laws of computers to the scenario and look to see if anyone kind of breaking them or abusing them. They thought that was a really good way. They liked that I had a different angle at kind of looking at it. So your experience is relevant if you go into a blue team, no matter where you've come from. They less care about it being as super relevant. I recommend Security Plus after you've got your foundations. We recommend Cyber Security Analyst Plus next, and Home Projects, and then CISP is the kind of top tier one that you might want to work towards. Home Projects are really important. People ask in the chat, how do I get a job? How do I demonstrate that I have that experience? Well, you need to be able to show that you can work these things, that these tools that the employers actually use before you've even had that job, to demonstrate you've got 1 year of experience for the entry level role, right? So that's where Home Projects come in. Everyone's collecting certs these days. The people who are standing out, the people who are actually building stuff, and there's a lot of projects on our YouTube for free that you can look into if you're trying to find some projects to get your hands stuck into, as well as some more guided ones on our school platform that I'll get to in a minute. I've also called out cloud certifications because I think cloud is still a really challenging area of cybersecurity, so really worth diving into there. But hopefully that's helpful. I'll get back to specific questions at the end of this. So what are your thoughts now? Red versus blue, or purple? Are you team purple? Like where? I don't want you to pick a side and that's your only side. I want you to see from this that actually, we are all a little bit of purple, but the blue team is an easier one to break into and start your career. If you love offensive security, you love red teaming, I'm not discouraging you from that. I'm just showing you a more practical way to get towards there. And the realities of the industry, that there is it's not a 50-50 split, right? One of the path is easier to be trodden, but you'll be a much better analyst on both sides as a red teamer if you know blue team, and as a blue teamer if you know red team. So please study them both. And in fact, some of our kind of people we mentor have done all the cybersecurity analyst certs, basic certs with us, and they've then done the projects with us, and then they've said, should I do CISA or Pen Test Plus? And we say, hey, it's whatever one you think is more interesting, because they're both really valuable to you. So yeah, you don't have to niche in right now. You can straddle them both, and that will serve you in good stead. I'm still team blue, but I am leaning to be more and more purple. Particularly the more I talk to AJ, he has a really good, his organization have a really good relationship with their red and blue team, and they're constantly testing them, keeping them on their toes, and making them better. But he also hates it when they tell him something's wrong and don't suggest a solution with him. So hey, that's why we all need to be a bit more purple. Now, where do these kind of meet? The place that these meet is actually in a seam. So that's what I wanted to show you. Right, this is Sumo Logic seam. It's one of the seams that we have our SOC Plus candidates. It's the people who take the apprenticeship program with empirical training, because yes, you can absolutely achieve your way into cybersecurity on your own without paying for any support or any mentorship or any guidance. I actually did that years ago, but it's a more crowded space, more competitive space. If you do think you need that additional support, that's something we can help with. And one of those things is giving you access to a seam in the context of working as a blue team, but it will be beneficial as a red teamer also, because this is where it meets, right? This is where the detections trigger, whether they're triggered by a threat actor or by a penetration tester. This is where you tweak the analytics to make sure you can catch them next time. This is where you orchestrate response plans also. And this is where you can search for the data that the penetration tester might have done, or even you've done it yourself, right? And test out what does it look like within a seam. That two sides of the coin, well-roundedness, would be really a fantastic person that I would want to hire into either of my teams. So with the SOC apprenticeship, you can have access to this, and you can actually get experience working this. This is a real tool with real data. This is what I did for the first 5 years of my career, was work in a kind of SIEM or SIEM-like tools in order to deliver security outcomes. So you are getting the experience of a professional without having to be the professional. And this is just one aspect of the many projects and hands-on experience that we have, right? We're empirical. Empirical means show me, don't tell me. Prove that you have the knowledge and experience. Don't just tell me that you know the theory. So that's what we're trying to do here, is give people the practical skills. Now, if you want to find out more, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I will leave this up on screen. We have a monthly and annual ones. The monthly is all about the projects and the classroom content that we have in there, group check-ins. We have some discounts to the CompTIA, as well as Sumo Logic Lab that you can use. If you're the annual, there's a little bit more high touch from us. We do a little bit more mentorship, one-on-one guidance, and interview support and so on. But ultimately, we're going to get you closer to being a viable cybersecurity candidate, or even better, help you get that job. And we've had success with people doing that. So Natasha managed to get a role within 2 months of joining us, a $20,000 pay increase. And Wandit, he is actually a student, so he wasn't looking for a job, but he said this really helped his studies and really made him kind of separate and stand out from the people on his course in his university in India. So yeah, those are just two, and exciting times if you're thinking, hey, sounds interesting, but I don't really know enough about it yet. Well, limited time offer. Everyone on this webinar, you're the only people who know about this. You can have a free 7-day trial for the first 20 people who sign up. So go to www.school.com/SOC. You can sign up there, and you get a taste of our week 1 onboarding, as well as some of the other pieces there. We'd love to see you over there. So yeah, if you want to try that out, 7-day trial. If it's not for you, you can move on. But I think this is a pretty good offer, so I would encourage you to jump in there. Great. Back to the Q&A. Pop the trial that's up there as well, and the URL is in the bottom right if you are still looking for that. Does anyone have any questions I haven't got to? Maybe Rob, is it worth jumping you in? And could you also share the link, Rob, or I can do that? Type it. Put yourself on stage, buddy.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you posting the link in the chat.
Yeah, there's the link for anyone who couldn't type it in the browser themselves and wanted me to type it in.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on the Sumo Logic Lab as well, because we've, just recently forged that partnership with Sumo Logic, the company, and they've provided us a full end-to-end SEAM lab environment. And then what we've done is included it into our apprenticeship course / program. So we've got, tasks that you need to complete within this SEAM solution, this full end to end. There's data, live data. It's test data, but it's coming in, it's flowing in constantly. So you complete tasks, you evidence those tasks, and then you document those. And then we've got an apprenticeship checklist. So you go through all of our theory that's, reverse engineered and focused specifically on the skills that you need to learn to become a SOC analyst. Couple that with all of the projects that we've got at the end of each week for all of the content. There's a lot of value in, and I personally think this is something that we're pioneering right now. The whole learn something, gather evidence, and then tell an employer and also show them that you've got skills in this area. And what it does is it bridges the gap between people that don't have any experience and then employers that are saying you need some experience. You can literally tell them that you've had hands-on experience with real life industry tools that people are using out in the wild. So very, very powerful stuff, if you do end up joining the apprenticeship program.
Great. Thanks, Rob. So I'm going to go through some of the questions now. So I'm going to work my way up. So I might be a little bit slow, but where to start as a beginner is the one that we're getting from here, from Who Am I? If you are a complete beginner, then join our school. That's a great place to start. Just get exposed, follow more cybersecurity pages and news sources and so on. You will need, if you're a complete beginner, you will need a level of IT knowledge. So I recommend we go in our classroom on school and we actually have some Professor Messer's link videos, or you can jump straight into YouTube and search him and study for the Network Plus or Server Plus. That'll help you understand how IT works, how these machines that we use every day actually work. And then somebody asked another question, similar to this. I've lost it already, but yeah, how do you kind of move on from being a beginner then? Well, yeah, that Security Plus is that first kind of foundational thing, and then we recommend diving into the projects. That's how you kind of get going as a beginner. But everyone's journey will be different. Make sure you do things that are right for you. Just don't neglect that you need to know theory and you need to get actual practical experience. Rob, I got that whistling nose in my ear, I'm afraid.
Oh, fucking hell.
Rob's got a boxer's nose, so it whistles sometimes. How do you know where you
too
belong?
Many fights.
Red, blue, or both? Well, I think some people will know where they want to be. I know some people who I've worked with knew from the off they wanted to be a penetration tester, and they were constantly grinding and working forward towards it. I'm somebody who never really knew where I wanted to be, and perhaps I still don't, but I actually think that's kind of a strength in this industry also, being flexible, having an interest and diving into things that interest you rather than to get to a next goal has always been something that stood me in good stead. And then opportunities come along your way that you might not have been inspecting. So you don't need to decide if you're red, blue, or both, but one of the takeaways I want everyone to get here is that both skills are valuable for each of the teams that you end up in. Blue is easier to start in and makes more sense to me to begin in, then make the transition over to red. But I know we have someone on this call who's got their first job in the red team and is actually interested in understanding more about blue team. So there's always exceptions to the rule. Did you see any other good ones, Rob? If you want to pin them up as well, I'm just going to go up through the list.
I think, we can make our way through them.
This person's had a good... Sorry, if you pop them up on the screen.
Go on, you address that one.
I'm in my webinar mode, so I'm just here ready to talk flat out for an hour. So this one, I think, just sums up what we were talking about, right? This, if a beginner, start with the blue, start with IT networking, build a strong foundation, then start with blue team, and then you can move over to red team with more skills. Yeah, you can do them in tandem. In fact, you'll be better for it. Some of the projects we have in our community, in the SOC Plus apprenticeship, are offensive tasks, right? Using a vulnerability scanner, using Kali Linux, which is the penetration testing operating system, because two sides of the same coin. You need to know how attackers work in order to be able to defend and detect against them and know how they think and where they're going next.
Yeah, some people are saying, well, where do I start? And we kind of have already covered it, but if you're a complete newbie and you know nothing about IT or networking, then join our free community in school, which I've posted a comment in the thread. You should be able to see it. Free community, school.com/cybersec. then go through our classroom section. There's free content in there that takes you through some networking modules, fundamentals of cybersecurity. Once you finish that, then the best place to go is the paid community for us for Empirical Training, which is our apprenticeship program. So that's school.com/SOC. And we've got all of the content. Yeah, all of the theoretical content, all of the practical content, access to the Sumo Logic lab, and then you go through all of this content. You basically go through our apprenticeship program, and we officially sign you off, and then you can list on your resume or your CV that you've had some training work experience with Empirical Training. So yeah, amazing
listing
stuff.
out those tools that you touch as part of our apprenticeship, that'd be the real value. They'll see those and they will get you an interview. It does get people interviews. So yeah, there's definitely ways you can. Some people are saying there's so much information out there. Where do I start? There are ways to do this kind of yourself, just trying to consume that information. But if you want a bit of a tailored approach, that's really what we've tried to do: cut through the noise to what actually matters and what actually is going to set you up to be successful as a security analyst. I've got someone here, Avi, from a non-tech background, looking for a career change at age 40. Don't know where to start. We've answered the where to start thing, I hope. But I just want to say that that career switch, even at 40, is actually a really common thing. Last year, the largest number of people switching the career changes into cybersecurity were age 35 to 45, which might be surprising to some, right? But it's you are valued. It's not a young man's game. This is everybody's game. A young person's I should say. Okay, it looks like Casiso and Robbie were great at answering the questions in the chat.
Yeah, I was also going to say, if the website's not working or you can't work out the link, then you can just Google school with a K, create an account in there, and then just search Empirical Training at the top for our communities, and you'll see both our communities, our free community, which has 10,000 people in, which is crazy. 10,000 like-minded people, all on the same wavelength, wanting to share knowledge, wanting to help each other out. And I've mentioned before, we've got free classroom content on to help you with the fundamental knowledge. Once you've got that fundamental knowledge, then join our school.com. We've got everything, school.com/SOC. That's our paid apprenticeship program. We've got everything that you need to become a SOC analyst. All of the theory, all of the practical, all of the hands-on labs to the tooling.
Yeah, 0 to hero, just like that. It'll require some work from yourself, but we'll help you along the way. So if you're starting out, join the free, ask questions in there, see the free classroom stuff. If you're getting closer and you need a push on that last bit, that's where the SOC Plus kind of comes in. Although we do have some people who have just jumped straight into the SOC Plus who want to accelerate their journey. So Mohammed Dali has asked about the Security Plus, what its kind of weight of it is in cybersecurity and in the context of red or blue. This is probably like the beginner cert for cybersecurity. Its weight is, hey, if you don't have it on your CV, I might pick somebody else who has it on their CV for an entry level job. After you've got your first job, it kind of doesn't matter. The cert is kind of redundant at that point. So it's worth doing. It shows you have a minimal level of knowledge, but it alone is not going to get you that job. It might be a reason someone throws your CV in the bin if you don't have it on there. So we do recommend getting it. But what's really going to show you is having that plus projects and a real experience. That's what will get you that job. Well, that's an interesting one. A day in the live stream, we get to see what you actually be doing on the job. We would get fired in a minute.
100%.
So sensitive.
Yeah. The only juicy information would be pertaining to customer data, and we can't really show that.
Yeah, I could video my face while I do stuff, and you can glean from my expressions how I'm feeling. That's about it. Even that, someone might manage to get something in the reflection of my eyes and then get me fired. I wouldn't put it past you guys. That's kind of what we like to do in cybersecurity, right? Mess about like that. Okay.
Also, just on the free stuff, I know that before you move on to the next one, I know that a lot of people want content for free, and there is free content out there. We are providing free content in our free community in
and
school,
our
YouTube, and we'll also provide free assistance and help if you DM us and try and reach out to us in school. But that will only get you so far, so you do have to invest in yourself.
You don't have to, but it's a sure way to help you accelerate along that journey. So I might notice our different approaches. Robbie is an all-in type of guy, and I'm a bit like, there's other ways.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's subjective.
Yeah, no, you're
Sure.
absolutely right. It's the way forward, and the reason we have to cap it is because we can't spend our time with too many people. We become devalued there. So, hence why, if you're thinking about it, this is a great opportunity to go try it out. Just head over to our page and try it. And we'd love to see you in the Cyber Hub as well. Even if SOC Plus isn't for you right now, that's fine. What's this next question? Wish there was a personality test or quiz that will give us better understanding of which team will thrive in. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I bet ChatGPT could code one up for us pretty quickly these days. But yeah, I think personality-wise, do you like to break stuff? Do you like to actually kind of be hands-on keyboard? Does the idea of being the attacker really excite you? And do you like to get really deep in your knowledge of one thing? If you like to be a master of one or a master of a few, red teaming is great for you. I will caveat that. So you have to be able to be really good at reporting. You spend a lot of your time writing reports, and there's be a lot of that. It's not always just hacking and smashing through stuff and whatever. But then if you're blue team, a bit more of a jack of all trades. You like being more in team environment. There'll be a lot more people that you'll work with. It'll be 24/7 shifts usually. And if you like to dip your toes in lots of different areas, you have to be more of a generalist here, because attackers are going to use all sorts of different attacks. You can still specialize, but you need to be a jack of all trades and a master of one or some, as the saying doesn't quite go. But yeah, I think, have we got through all the questions now, Robbie? There will be a recording for this. I will post it in our school and onto our YouTube channel as well. If you want the slides, you have to DM me directly on school, and I'll send you a PDF.
I'm doing pre-security path on TryHackMe. What should my roadmap path after that? I guess you like Hack the Box, was it's a lot more.
TryHackMe is really good to kind of start you off. Yeah. Exactly. It's a pre-security path. They're great at kind of starting you into that. From there, TryHackMe will have different parts you can move on to. You might want to look at a Security Plus cert, or maybe the Certified Ethical Hacker. And then I try Hack the Box is like a more advanced version of TryHackMe, a little bit more prestige behind hacking stuff. So that's where you can move to next in the CTFs. But yeah, I think it's easier, Robbie, for like the penetration testers, red team people to know what projects they need to work on, because there are so many capture the flags that kind of help you walk through that and see it. It's a little bit more tricky on the defensive side. I think this is why we've written some of these projects for people to see what is it that defensive teams actually do, because I don't think we as an industry do that well at sharing that with everybody else. But yeah, are coding prerequisites required to start in cyber? No, but would it help? Yes. Like Python is probably the one that we'd recommend if you want to learn one. If you don't want to learn one, just make sure you can interpret it. So learn about command line, learn about just look at some codes like Python, PowerShell, etc. And then so you can roughly interpret them. Bit of JavaScript maybe. I can interpret loads of scripts, loads of coding languages. I can't write one effectively without messing up all the syntax. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. I think the biggest one for blue teamers is SQL. And that's just because SQL based query languages are used to search through logs in a SIEM solution. And then also a little bit of regex to manipulate rules and orchestrate rules within a SIEM. So those are the top two for a blue teamer, I would say. Danny said, what are some recommended conferences for blue teamers looking to network in person? I guess it depends where you are in the world, mate. If you're in the UK, I'm going to be in the US.
InfoSec Europe at the end of this month, I believe, or is it in June? I think it might be the end of April. So that's a London-based one. That's worthwhile doing. It might be in June. It's in June. Come along to that. But yeah, have a look to Google cybersecurity conferences in like city near you, wherever that city is, and have a look at them. Some of them will let you sign up for free as a visitor badge, and you can just go around, talk to people. You're going to get something from them, even the worst cybersecurity shows or the worst tech shows. So yeah, try it out.
How do I get into the SOC mentorship?
Well, Diamond Williams, there's that link right down the bottom. It's www.school.com/SOC. So it's there for you to see. I did post it in the chat as well. But yeah, head on over.
And then I think, so we've got a lot. Someone said, why is it in dollars? It's because school works in dollars. But a lot of people are saying, how do I get a job? Where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? I think if you haven't listened properly to the webinar, then you might not know how to start. But if you've listened to Josh's webinar and you've listened to us speak at the end and answer all of our questions, we've answered all of your questions, then I feel like you should have some sort of direction. So we've already said that we've got a free community and there's free content in there to give you fundamental knowledge in networking and IT. So you've got to head over to school.com with a K. So schoolwithak.com/cybersec. And then we've obviously got an apprenticeship program, which you can join. It's $99 a month. And that's very reasonable, very affordable. You'll get all of the tools that you need to be able to become a SOC analyst, theoretical, practical, evidence. Oh, it's golden. It is literally golden. And that is where you should start. And if you're struggling with these URLs, then you just Google school with a K. And then you just, when you create an account, you just type in Empirical Training and you'll see both of our communities.
Nice. The last one I'm going to say, someone's, well, two things. Someone said they can't afford the CompTIA cert. I think it's one of the cheaper ones. It's one of the entry ones. There's not really a way around it. If you want it dedicated to it, you're going to have to maybe, or you do projects and show that you're way better than the Security Plus and just focus on that. That if you can't afford the CompTIA cert, there are no cheaper certs, I would say, that are worthwhile. Do CompTIA do Python and SQL courses? I don't think they do. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they don't. But you don't need to. You can do these for free. There's so many of them out there. Just Google Python, SQL on like Coursera and Google. There's even like Code Combat I've got written up over there, something to check out. There's a lot of gamified websites where you can basically play games while doing code, and I think that one's for Python, so go check that out. You don't need to pay to learn those languages. You can do it yourself. And these days with vibe coding as well, you just need to learn enough and then you can get ChatGPT to help you out with the syntax. So yeah, the barrier to entry is lower than it ever used to be. Great. So last one then, I think, Rob. So yeah. Yes, well, two ones. Yes, you should go to school.com, Empirical Train, the Cyber HUD, and there'll be loads of free resources in there to get you started if you are starting from zero, and loads of people like me and Robbie, but also not me and Robbie, 10,000 people who can help you with that as you go along, and you'll just learn from being in there. Last one, are there any certifications you'd recommend as prerequisites before joining the SOC mentorship program? Yeah, Security Plus is the one that we recommend because that shows you have a good foundational level. We do cover off some of the same concepts and we go a little bit further. So you don't need to do that. Some people have, some people haven't. We can also help you kind of with a free Security Plus lab at the end of it if you do want to still go out and get that cert on your resume/CV. So,
but we also have that. We have that content in our free school community, Security Plus content and Network Plus content in our school community, the free one. So you just got to get in the free, go into the classroom, go through all of that free content. Once you're done with that, then you join the SOC Plus apprenticeship program.
Nice one, gents. Nice one, everybody. People in the chat, thank you so much for attending. I will upload this to YouTube. It will take a while. It's a chunky old video, so I'll put, and that should be out by tomorrow latest, so you can go and see this again. Last answer: yes, Network Plus before Sec Plus. We do recommend that, or you do it at the same time. There's also a Course Careers IT thing. Again, check it all out. We talk about this on our school community.
Any additional questions? Get in the school and ask them in there.
Yeah. We're not answering any more here. We do a Q&A weekly as well, actually. So yeah.
Ease in the chat.
Ease in case. K for school.
Yeah.
Ease for Empirical.
Ease in the chat, guys.
Hope that's not a gang sign. All right.
I know.
Good night, everyone.